Okay, cool guys. Welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs for a First Division review show from the weekend. Big weekend. I know myself and Keith discussed it last week, and I certainly expected different results. But Gavin, you're very welcome this week.
Hi Keith, good to see you.
Good to see you. We'll start off with with the team you're devoted to. Hands on the head. Look. I said to Keith, I expected the results this weekend to almost bring the title closer to Cork City than it ever was before this season. But Treaty went and spoiled the party. 2-0 win for Treaty. Cobh Ramblers defender Ben O'Riordan with the opener and Mark Ludden with a penalty in the second half. Did Treaty deserve the result they got?
Oh, more than that, Keith. It could have been 3 or 4-0, to be fair to Treaty. It was strange because it was exactly the complete opposite I expected the game to go. City were atrocious, and I hate saying those words, and I hate going on about my club, but I'm just saying it as it is. Like, no creativity, no spark, no invention, kind of didn't know what they were doing with the ball. Like I was saying it there, that, the 3 of them in the centre midfield, Bolger, Coffey and Matt Healy in the middle of the park, and the 3 of them might as well have been sitting down watching a match. Like, they created nothing in midfield for 3 central midfielders.
It's crazy. We've given those 3 players quite good compliments this season. So they obviously didn't, or is this a kick in the teeth that Cork City needed?
Funnily enough, Keith, actually afterwards, I was actually saying to a couple of people, talking about the game, and I said, you know what? I said, touch wood, it could have been the best thing that happened to Cork City. And I don't know, was it a case that they had this thing in mentally in their head, saying, look, it's Treaty, that's grand, 3 points, we'll get a couple of goals, we've beaten them comfortably already. But that was not the case. And to be fair to Treaty, they were outstanding. They were very good, played great football. Like success, Udigan, is it? He gave Keane Coleman a horrid time. His strength, power, pace, and they couldn't deal with him. They could not deal with him, and made a couple of changes at half time or just in the second half, Cork City. But like, it was one of these games where after about 60 minutes you're saying to yourself, Keith, the best thing to do was to blow up, because it was just one of those games where you just wanted to get out of it. Like, nothing was going to happen for City the other night, and they got everything they deserved. They deserved to lose that game the other night, and to give all the credit to Treaty, more than deserved 3 points. It was outstanding by Treaty. To be fair to him, Keith, and it said it all, that when the Treaty players came off, the shed applauded him.
So what you're saying is, it wasn't that, or maybe it was a bit of both. Treaty deserved the win, but Cork didn't deserve anything from the game. It wasn't as if Cork City threatens Treaty and deserved anything out of the game, no?
Oh, absolutely not. Like, David Harrington, just before Ben O'Riordan, who got an absolute screamer for Treaty.
What a goal, by the way.
What a finish, in fairness to him. And literally, I'd say a couple of minutes before that, I think it was him as well, done exactly the same thing into the other corner, and Harrington made an unbelievable save. So, like, it could like, City were never going to score, like, and I hate having to go off players, but Louis Britton, like, I don't know what, unless something magical happens and, somebody gets out a wand from or something, but I don't know what he brings to Cork City. I genuinely don't, and look, maybe it's just that Waterford suited him, but Cork City certainly doesn't suit him. And it's disappointing, because you like to see a player doing well for themselves, Keith, but no, it's just not happening from a Cork City,
Cork are still 3 points ahead with a game in hand. We'll talk about that later on. So, the benefit that Cork had this weekend, we're going to discuss now. Galway went to Waterford. And the result that happened in Waterford, I was expecting, I'll be honest. Obviously, Galway last week was 2-2 against Wexford, and they fell further behind Cork. They came away. This game seemed to be, there was so many yellow cards. I think I counted 11 yellow cards in this game, so it seemed like a dirty old game. Conor McCormick was sent off, but Waterford ultimately won 2-1. Junior with the winning goal after 84 minutes from the penalty spot, after Stephen Walsh, in fairness, had opened the scoring for Galway. So No, it's a kick in the teeth, isn't it, for Galway, particularly with Cork losing. They could have gained that little bit extra on them. But with the Waterford results, are they back in the title race, do you think?
Oh, definitely, Keith. And like it's without coming to it too soon, but like that's a Waterford are flying. It's a great result against Galway, a Galway team that are, they're, to be fair to them, are usually quite strong. Obviously, in connection with Conor McCormack, he's that type feisty type of player who likes to get involved. And I suppose, look, things weren't going his way, things weren't going the team's way, and if he got a straight red was obviously probably for a challenge or something. But to be fair to Waterford, they're picking up the results. They're playing well. I always say it, like, if they can get their defence sorted, they're very good. They're top 4-6 players. They're an excellent team. And, this is, it's after turning into a race that I probably didn't expect what Waterford know as well. And give credit to them, they deserve to be there. And it's this thing in a couple of weeks could turn on its head,
Yeah. We'll move on because we're going to discuss the Waterford Cork game after the reviews. We'll move on to Wexford. Wexford 2-2 draw with Cobh Ramblers in Ferry Carrick. I'll be honest, not the result I was expecting. Wexford were on a reasonably good run of form. They went to Galway last week and drew 2-2. This game finished 2-2. And it seemed Cobh were deserving of at least a draw here. Sean McGrath, only 19 years of age, and Luke Desmond, only 20 years of age, scored for Cobh. Harry Groom and Luka Lovic for Wexford. I don't know if you've seen Harry Groom's goal, but Jared Short was absolutely fantastic on the left side for Wexford. Got past a couple of players and squared of Harry Groom to score. Points dropped for Wexford, do you think?
Yeah, I suppose, Keith. As you said, Wexford have been in form, and Cobh, like I've said, I think Shane Keegan is working on Cobh at the moment and just trying to see what his best 11 is. And I think I might have pointed it out, maybe I did a couple of weeks ago, that I think Shawnee McGrath, who came on against City in the Cup game, I think is a huge, like he can be a great player, and I think he's, as you said, 19, 20 years old. Lovely ball player, and like he scored again the other day, and funnily enough, I texted a friend of mine as soon as I saw him score, and I said, there you go, a fantastic player. Wexford will be very disappointed, I suppose. Look, as you said yourself a couple of weeks ago, Luka Lovic is flying for Wexford as well, and he's banging in the goal, so he's right on form. But I suppose, Shane Keegan will be thrilled with her. He actually probably would be more disappointed the fact that, they were 2-1 up down there, and especially such a hard place to go in for Carrick Park to pick up the 3 points. So I suppose in a sense they'll probably quite disappointed they didn't pick up the 3 points, but nevertheless, at least with the 2-2 draw, he'll probably learn a lot from that and go into the next game for Cobh.
Yeah, so with Wexford not picking up the 3 points and Treaty winning in Turner's Cross, that opens up a 4-point gap between the two sides. So obviously Treaty are 4 points ahead of them now, and we'll discuss Longford in a minute. 4 points, it's a good gap to have for Treaty at this stage of the season. There's only 7 games left. So Wexford will have to get their shooting boots on, or, well, their defensive boots on to keep the goals out more so than that. And there's no problem with them scoring goals. It seems to be at the back for them. And I think Ian will be a little bit frustrated there, will he?
Yeah, I think so, Keith. And I suppose, like, the 4 points, as you said, I know it's no, how would you say it? But like in a sense, Wexford, especially after Treaty against Cork City on Friday night, playing so well, I just think that they'll look at the game and say, like, we deserved everything there, we got our points, and they'll build from that. So, like, I think that gap between them that they've separated from Wexford, I think will be it could become that game. They look at that game the other night and say, like, this is where we kicked on from here, Treaty, because as we said about them, Treaty are so unpredictable. Yeah. I mean, City went down, a while back and beat them comfortably down in Treaty, down in Limerick, and then they come up and absolutely tear Cork City apart tonight, and deservedly so. So, they'll be looking from that point and saying we deserved it, and they'll build from that. So, it's in their hands in that sense,
Yeah, I'm going to put my hands on my face here now, like you did for the Cork result, because Bray against Longford in the Carlisle grounds. And Carlisle grounds, that used to be not so much a fortress, but it was a difficult place to go from time to time to get a result. Not this season. Absolutely not this season. Bray have had one home win all season, and they're shipping goals like there's no tomorrow. 3 goals against this weekend. That means that Bray haven't won in 4 games. It's their 4th defeat in a row. They've conceded 11 and scored 1. Now, let's not take away from Longford. I watched this game from home. Unfortunately, I was sick. So, Adiemo scored 2, and he also got taken down for the penalty. Now, Bray sponsors normally give a man of the match award to a Bray player, but I felt they should have walked into the Longford dressing room and given it to Adiemo. I thought he was absolutely excellent all night. There was nothing from Bray. It was a poor crowd. So, like, the season was over weeks ago. So I actually don't know where we go from here. I don't know where we go from 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. Something has to change, and it's been mentioned. It was mentioned tonight on local radio that they have tried changing things, but something is sticking out like a sore thumb. And I'm not going to mention what that is, but everyone will know what that is. And it hasn't changed. And we go into the last 7 games of the season just trying to stay ahead of Cobh. That's where Bray are at the moment, just trying to stay ahead of Cobh, unfortunately. For a team that was tipped earlier on the season to touch the playoffs, I expected it as well with the recruitment that came in. But it's not going to happen. And I'd like to get an alternative view from yourself on what you think is going on at Bray and what needs to happen for things to change.
Yeah, I suppose, Keith, like you said there yourself, there wasn't a great crowd there on Friday night. And firstly, I hope you're feeling a bit better. I know you weren't well, so hopefully you're getting better. Just in that connection, Keith, like if you look at where Bray is, and this is a typical kind of, I go back to situations like this with Cork City and Cobh, where a pitch is based or locality. Like Bray, when the weather is good, Bray is beautiful. That area, Dunleary, that's a beautiful area. You're looking at that game Friday night and you're thinking, okay, if Bray are doing well, you're going to get a couple of thousand there. Beautiful place to go, lovely weather. Let's go there for a match. So unfortunately, there's poison in the club, and it's killing the support. And whether it's they say love is blind. I don't know, or to hire people in love with the person that you're talking about or whatever, but this is an eye opener in every sense of the word. And for a club like Bray, who only a couple of years ago were up there in the Premier and we're up there. I remember when Bray played Cork City, when Cork City were going for the league or the double that time, and Bray were a very dangerous team that time. And obviously, it's like a sense, and it kind of reminds me of Manchester United. You need to get rid of the poison out of a club. And obviously there's poison in that club, and nothing's going to change till it goes. So if they're expecting it's like that saying there, the first sign of madness, Keith, is they're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And that's not going to happen with Bray. So they need to get rid of the madness and for things to change, because it's not going to change otherwise. You can't have somebody ruling a club that way and expecting something different to happen. It's not going to happen, and it's going to keep staying that way. And it's such a pity, Keith, because like yourself, who supports them and loves the club and everything, and such a beautiful area, in Bray, lovely place to go, can bring in a nice crowd. And even if you're up there for the day, it's a great place to go to Carlisle grounds, fantastic place. But that's not going to happen till change happens. And it's a sad situation in that sense that people at the top of the club need to see what's going on. Like, are the blinkers on them or what? Or are they not football people? Or are they just people who came in and, they don't know much about the club or don't love the club or whatever? But if you're somebody at that level and you love the club, you need to make the change. And if you have the power to do it. Because otherwise, the same thing is going to keep happening. Like I said, you can't expect change in a club if you keep doing the same thing. It's not going to happen. And the club is in a bad place, so change has to happen. But if they don't see that, they must be stupid, genuinely. And I hate saying that, but there must be stupid people there, And it's a sad situation, Keith. And hopefully, if there's Bray fans watching this, and if anybody that's watching or anybody that has a bit of power at the club and you can see it, and this is coming from a Cork City fan down here, great club, bring change to the club, and that's the only way the club will change.
Yeah, look, as I said, with Longford, we can't discount this was a fantastic result for them, 3-0 away from home. As I said, 2 goals from Adiemo. It puts them 6 points ahead in the playoff, and it's funny. The manager that was he was with Bray last season, and he obviously didn't take on a role with Bray this season. Whether he was offered a role or not, that's for another day. Gary Cronin, he has Longford in the playoffs, which a lot of their supporters would have expected. They've 42 points, I think it is now. So look, they're 6 points ahead of Treaty. They're going all right. They've made a couple of signings. They've bolstered their squad, which they needed. And I think Longford, not that they'll be a threat in the playoffs, because obviously we have the teams like Cork City, Galway, Waterford, whoever ends up in there. But they'll certainly give a team a go on the day, won't they?
Oh, definitely, Keith. And I've said this before, and it's kind of like, for people that haven't heard me say it before, who'll be only watching tonight, but Longford, other than Galway, Longford have been the best organised team I've seen played under the cross. They really impressed me. So, you can't look past Longford in the playoffs. This could be like it's one of these games where saying, sure, look, it's Longford, but like they're the team that could surprise you, and you're looking at it that sense and you're thinking, sure, look, they're not doing well, or the results are coming and going and stuff, but I wouldn't like to play them in the playoff. I genuinely wouldn't. They were so organised, very hard to play against. Really impressed me against Cork City and Turner's Cross this year. Like, as I said, one of the most organised defensively. They were a great unit, looked like what they were doing, and very impressive. And even after losing a couple of players in that, they're still a threat to any team, And like even that comes down to Waterford or Galway as well, in the playoffs. If it's Cork City, and I'm not just talking about Cork City, I'm talking about Galway and Waterford, but if one of them get them, like, I wouldn't like to be playing against them in the playoff. Very dangerous team.
Yeah, certainly they surprised a couple of teams in the playoff a few years ago, obviously beating Shelbourne to go up to the Premier Division. So yeah, fantastic result for Longford, and fair play to them. And a couple of their supporters will be happy. I know one of them actually said it was their easiest game of the season. That says a lot about Bray, doesn't it? But Look, we'll move on. There's a game on Monday. It's a game that was supposed to be played earlier on the season, but was postponed because of international call-ups. And again, it involves your side, Cork City, against Waterford. I already asked a question of Waterford back in the title race after that result and after Cork losing. Waterford could beat Cork this weekend, this Monday, and that really opens things back up, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely, Keith. And like, I suppose, look, in a sense, I'm trying to look from a positive point, but City can't be as bad as they were Friday night. Well, I hope they won't be as bad. But I can tell you one thing for nothing, Keith. If they play and have the same attitude they played Friday night, they're going to be hit for 3 or 4 goals on Monday night. I genuinely think that. Like, hopefully, Colin, like they've obviously done an analysis, I'd be guessing, looking back on Friday night, and everything about Friday night was terrible. Everything. Like you couldn't pick out a good player with City the other night. So surely the players have to look at themselves and say, okay, we're in a great place. Do you know what I mean? We're top of the league. The league is there for Cork City to lose. Yeah. So if City don't pick up 3 points on Monday night, I think it could be a very dangerous title race for Cork City if they want to win the league. I'm really looking forward to the game because, I think sometimes, in a game like this, it really, like, it comes back to character and the type of player you are, and, how much you love your club and all that sort of thing. And this is the type of game, Keith, where I think it'll show if Cork City players want to win the league and want to prove that they can play in the Premier Division if they win it or if they go up. So it has to be 110% complete change around from Friday night. Like, nothing less, and you can forget about 3 points on tomorrow night. Waterford are going to be a huge threat, and like I've said this before, provided Niall O'Keefe plays well and does his job in front of the back four, or if he's in the back four, Waterford are so dangerous in midfield and up front. It's going to be a huge game, and like I'm hoping, and I hate saying this about it, like City need to make changes for tomorrow night. Louis Britton can start tomorrow night. He can.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what changes would you make from Friday that will enhance the Cork City starting 11 for?
So basically, he played Darragh Crowley at right back the other night, and what I would do is I would put Darragh Crowley right side of midfield, and I'd bring back Cian Murphy and throw Cian Murphy up front. Like, you might have to make a change at the back as well. I probably would start Gordon Walker at right back and push Darragh Crowley into right midfield. You know, he might have to make one or two changes just to suit the game, for want of a better word. You know, he might have to kind of go 1-for-1, or, you know, just mark. Like, I don't think, like, the way they played it tonight with this 3 and then the 5 in midfield with the 2 wing backs, it just didn't work against Treaty tonight. Now, to be fair to Treaty did exactly the same thing back to Cork City, and Cork City couldn't deal with it. They went with 5 in midfield. Cork City couldn't handle it. But, you know, that's down to, like, if you want to win a league, you have to be able to adapt and change for different games and different players and stuff like that. So, Keith, tomorrow night, City need to change, and they need to make changes, and he needs to start with Cian Murphy up front with Rory Keating. Like, Rory Keating as well was on the wing the other night. Rory Keating's the type of player who likes to be central and involved. If he takes the ball down and goes back to midfield, or turns and goes left or right, or turns to Cian Murphy, or takes, you know, Cian Murphy's waiting for a second ball off him, that's what needs to happen tomorrow night. If City play Louis Britton tomorrow night, I'm sorry, forget about it. You might as well forget about 3 points tomorrow night. And I hate criticising anybody, but it's just not happening from at the club. You know, it's maybe just one of these things. It's kind of like it's kind of like Fernando Torres at Chelsea. You know, it's one of these things. It just never worked out for him there. I know I'm comparing 2 completely different players, but, you know, when you go to a club, sometimes it just doesn't work, and it's just not working for him. And if
I get it. The thing, Gavin, as well, he's going back to Waterford, obviously. He's playing against his old team, so they'll know everything about him as well. Yeah. So for him to be maybe in the starting 11 mightn't be a good idea. If Cork City are looking to get a result, you know, because they know him so well and they know what runs he makes and this and that. So, listen, we leave it there. I hope for your sake, Cork City get a result tomorrow night. I'm gonna go for a draw. I think it's a draw will still open things back up. So we'll see where it goes, guys. Thanks for listening. If you like the channel, like the page, hit the bell notification, and let us know in the comments what your predictions are for tomorrow night's game against Waterford against Cork. Cheers, guys. Thanks, Gav.
Thanks, Keith. Thank you.